I want to talk today about winning because we all like to win, don't we? Except the Australian cricket team at the moment, but apart from them, we all like to win. We like our sporting teams to win. We like our political party to win. When we're single, we want to win the girl, don't we? Win the boy. We want to win the prize, win the auction on the house, win the contract at work. We love to win. Sometimes I'm playing board games with my nieces and nephews and I deliberately lose, but sometimes it's actually really hard. Something within me kind of is dying. It can be easy to just dismiss this desire to win as an ego thing, yeah? And that might in part be true. But I want to propose tonight that our desire to win actually points us to a deeper truth of our humanity. And that is that we have been designed to win. You have been designed to win. God's intention is for you to win at what we might call the spiritual dimensions of life. You've been designed to win at having deep, honest, rich, supportive, vulnerable relationships with others. You've been designed to win at living a life with true meaning and purpose, a life that fulfills you. You have been designed to win at living a life that is full of love, that you have the capacity to give love, but also to receive it, to live beyond yourself. But perhaps the greatest win, the one that underpins all the others, is the win of living with an unshakable hope. You have been designed to live always with this capacity to trust in tomorrow, which I mentioned earlier is the theme that we're going to be breaking open in these coming weeks of Advent. In the Christian understanding of the human person, that's each one of us, everyone is designed to win, to flourish in these dimensions of our life. But we're not always convinced of this truth, are we? We don't always feel like winners, do we? Sometimes the challenges and the pain and the disappointments of life can kind of chip away at that truth, and we start to entertain a very different kind of narrative. We start believing that actually winning is hard, or maybe that we can't win, or even worse, that we don't deserve to win. That somehow we've disqualified ourselves from that. I'm reminded of that kind of common off-the-cuff kind of saying. It goes something like this. Can't win, can ya? Ever found yourself saying that? Can't win, can ya? Life's tough. Life's against me. When this narrative starts to set in, we often start to perceive life as a threat, as if life or God is against us. And so naturally, we live defensively. We go through life kind of just coping. We find it very difficult to really trust in our hearts, to trust in ourselves, to trust in others. We settle for far less than our true potential. That is why this celebration of Christ the King is so important for our lives, because this celebration today proposes to us a very different reality to the one that we're constantly entertaining in our minds. In this reality, Christ is King, which means that he has ultimate authority. And not just authority over a particular territory or a particular government like earthly kings, but authority over all of the cosmos, the entire universe. St. Paul talks about Christ as the hidden power through whom everything exists and in whom everything exists. That Christ is the authority that holds everything and everyone in being. His authority is in the spiritual realm. It's largely unseen. Our second reading today comes from the last book of the Bible, and it speaks about Christ as the Alpha and the Omega, the one who spoke the first word in the very beginning and the one who will always speak the last word. The important reminder for us today is that it's not our circumstances that have the final word. It's not the opinions of others that have the final word. It's not our judgments on ourselves that has the final word. It's not our limitations or our failures that has the final word. It's Christ who has the final word on our truth, who governs our reality because he is king. He holds the ultimate authority. So what I want to propose tonight is that this is how Christ exercises his authority as king. This is how he saves the world. Today we heard him, he's talking to Pilate. He says, yes, finally, he accepts this title as king. He says, yes, I am king. And I came into the world for this. Not to save it through some military force, which is what people expected of Jesus, the Messiah. But he says, I came into the world for this, to bear witness to the truth. If you're expecting Jesus to come one day, sort of rolling on the clouds with his army of angels and to kind of just, sweep up and restore and save the whole earth in this great force and great power, and I'm sorry to say, but you might be disappointed. I know we get some sort of images of that through the scriptures, but we don't always read that, we don't interpret those literally, yeah? Christ saves us not through some great showing of physical power, but by witnessing to the truth. And the truth that Christ reveals is that God and life is for us. This is the truth that saves us. The assurance from Christ that God is for us. When we look at the words and the works and the ways of Jesus, they all reveal to us a God who is always wanting to forgive us and to heal us and to strengthen us and to encourage us, to guide us into our potential. And the theological word we use for that is grace. You ever heard that word? We use it all the time. Grace is the spiritual authority of Christ as King, who walks with us in every moment, wanting to give us what we need so that we can win at life. That's what grace is. This hidden power, this hidden authority of Christ, always with us, always behind us, always for us. And so my question tonight is, what do you imagine might be possible for your life if you really trusted that Christ has ultimate authority? If you always allowed him to have the last word in your life, in your reality? What might happen if you always believed that his grace will meet you and give you whatever you need to win at life, regardless of how devastating the situation may be that you're facing? The key point I want to land on today is that ultimate trust, ultimate hope does not come from advances in science and technology. It doesn't come from more knowledge or more wealth or more resources. Ultimate hope, a truly victorious life, comes from constantly opening ourselves to the Christ, the King, to his grace, which leads us into a whole different reality. A different way of seeing ourselves and seeing God and seeing life and seeing others. Jesus says it today. He says, my kingdom is not of this kind. It's not of this world. Bit by bit, God's grace, if we open to it, if we receive this grace, this authority, it transports us into a whole other dimension of life, which Jesus sometimes called the kingdom of God. For much of my life, I've been bound up with thoughts and beliefs that limited me in all kinds of ways. But I continue to find, even today, that the more that I pursue Christ, the more that I trust in his goodness, the more I open my heart to his grace, the more freedom I find from that old narrative, that old way of understanding myself and seeing life. And sometimes that freedom that I experience feels like an absolute miracle, because it opens me to a whole new kind of way of understanding myself. It's just helped me to see capacity within me, potential that I never knew existed. It's miraculous. So here it is again. Living with a genuine trust in tomorrow, living a life where you are truly winning, is the result of connecting to the presence of Christ the King here and now. The classic image Jesus gives us is the vine and the branches, remember? He says, I am the vine, you are the branches. If you abide in me and I in you, you will bear great fruit. But if you're removed from me, if you're removed from my authority, my spiritual authority, my grace, you can do nothing really worthwhile. You can't really win at life. This is why our spiritual practices are so important if we want to win. Because so often, as I'm sure we all know, we live unconsciously, don't we? So often our minds are caught up with thoughts and emotions that are connected to the past and the future. And that almost always leads us to some kind of stress and anxiety, because it takes us away from the present, here and now, which is where God is, which is where grace is found. So we need practices that constantly bring us back to the present, back to this grace, yeah? Mass, our gathering, that's one practice that brings us back to the present, back into this grace of Christ the King. But Mass is not enough. It's not enough. If we want to really live in that place, if we want to abide in Christ the King. So, as we begin this Advent series, I want to introduce to you tonight a very simple practice to help you to encounter the grace of Christ the King every day. And maybe you can make a commitment tonight to really practicing this during Advent. The practice is simply taking three deep, conscious breaths. That's it. And in a second, I'm going to give you an example of what that looks like. But I want to suggest that you do this multiple times a day. Do it in the morning. Do it when you're transitioning between tasks throughout the day. And absolutely do it in moments when you feel overwhelmed. Conscious breathing is powerful because it brings you to the present. And whenever you come to the present, you come to God. Yeah? I know it might sound a bit simple. It's like, that doesn't sound very Catholic or something, but it's profoundly Christian. It's profoundly spiritual. God can only be here and now. So if you're willing, perhaps just for a moment, just close your eyes and I'll lead you through these three deep conscious breaths. So I invite you now to take your first deep conscious breath through your nose. And with that first breath, just become aware of the present moment. You might imagine yourself breathing in God's Spirit. And now take another deep, conscious breath. And in this breath, make a decision to accept whatever is happening in your life at the moment without judgment. Just make a decision to trust God. And now take a third deep, conscious breath. And in this breath, simply rest in God's presence. Winning at life can be as simple as taking 3 deep, conscious breaths. Remembering in each breath that you are here, that you are loved, and that the authority of Christ the King is with you, for you, leading you into a hopeful tomorrow.